So we're going to talk about compound interest, and compound interest is given by this formula right here, where your amount is your principal and then 1 plus your rate divided by the number of times, and then to the number of times your number of years. So when I'm looking at this, it's important to know that my P right here is my principal, and that my R is my rate, and my N signifies my number of times per year, so this is going to be my number of times per year. And then my T is my time in years, so I'm going to go this T right here, this is my time in years. Okay. And N can be in a few different things. I gave some examples of what N could be. And if they use the word quarterly, that means you take a year and you cut it into 4 pieces, so it's 4 times per year. If they say monthly, well, there's 12 months in a year, so that's 12 times per year. And if they use the word annually, they mean 1 time per year. So in problems, these are the things you typically see is quarterly, monthly, and annually for N. Okay, so if I'm given an example and I want to write the equation, I have to know what everything means when I'm reading the problem. So I'm going to go through that process with you so we can plug stuff in. Most likely you'll be putting much of this in a calculator, so the math part will be calculator math. When I'm looking at this word problem, it says I deposit $100 into a savings account that earns 6% annually, interest compounded monthly, and I want to write a function that represents the balance after 2 years. Okay, so I'm going to start going through the parts of this and say, well, I know that I have deposited $100. Well, that's what I start with, so that's my principal. So I'm going to say this part, so it's what I start with. So that represents my P. Okay. And I know that it's got an interest rate of 6%. So this part right here, my 6%, I've got to put that into a decimal for math purposes. So that's 0.06. That's the same as 6% because 6 out of 100, right? 6% out of 100% is going to be 0.06. And my annual interest rate is compounded monthly, so I'm going to say this is compounded monthly, which means that I have a 12 for this, so 12 times per year, that's my N. So this equals my N. And then I want to write it in terms of T years. So it doesn't tell me how many years, it just says T years. Okay, so I would write down my formula, and my formula is here. So I'm going to write this thing down first, and I would say, well, that's going to be Y equals P times 1 plus R over N to the NT. And make sure that I'm putting everything in where it goes. So when I put in my P, I'm going to put in 100. So this right here, this is where my 100 went. And 1 was in the equation, so I don't deal with that at all. And my 0.06, so this right here, this 0.06, well, that came from here. My 6%, I can write 6% is 6 out of 100, which is 0.06. That goes in for my rate. My N is the number of times it compounds per year. It says it compounds monthly, so that turns into a 12, and so does that. But my T, well, my T, it didn't tell me how many years, so I'm going to put in T for my time. And I can simplify. So when I'm doing my math here, let me make that yellow. When I do my math here, 0.06 divided by 12, well, if I put that into a calculator, I'm going to get that. And when I add 0.005 to 1, I'm going to get that. So it can be simplified down further. So if they're asking for an equation, they want you to put it in a simple form, and that would be the simplest form you could provide.